You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. Well, let's go. Thank everybody for coming. So this is the Artist Talk with Lex Marie for her first solo exhibition. Remember. So again, I'm Thomas James. I'll be facilitating this talk. So she and I will talk, and then we're gonna open it up for to make it a more communal conversation. So I have a list of questions that I want to ask you. And we're good on sound, right? Because the thing is the door is not bothering us. All right, cool. So my first question that I want to ask you is, so you have been, so this is your first show. How long have you been painting and showing, and but to get to this point where you felt like, okay, I have a body of work that I want to showcase. I have a spot that I feel comfortable doing it at. And how long, I guess, tell us a little bit about that journey to get here.
Okay. So, if we want to start from the beginning, I'm the person who I've been drawing since I was a little person. So it's like when people ask, how long have you been painting? I don't really know how to answer it. Mm-hmm. Forever, But I went to Maryland, and originally I was majoring in graphic design, thinking that would be a more lucrative, art career. Didn't enjoy it at all. So then I got into painting, and that's 2013 I graduated.
So you switched majors in between,
Not majors, so it was I made concentration. So right. I majored in studio art, and then my concentration at first was graphic design, and then I took a painting class, and I'm like, this is the only thing I've ever enjoyed in life. So after that, I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, because I don't like to do anything else. And then after that, I had a career in property management. I did to pay my bills, and I taught
cool.
art. No, it was not fun.
Cool as in having a. Well, I say that because being on the admin side, I know how important it is to have property, have real estate. Especially here, you don't have this show without the building.
Mm-hmm.
So
it gave me some knowledge. It gave me some knowledge in that field.
Yeah.
But the 8 to 5, I dragged myself to work
for sure.
every day. For sure. Dragged myself to work. So I was an art consultant. I was an art teacher. I did paint night.
Where'd you teach?
Emerson Prep was a small DC private school. It was 40 students in the entire high school. And my class was 4 kids, and I absolutely loved it so much. Yeah, because they're probably around your age. No. In high school? No.
You said the kids were in high school.
They were in high school, but this was a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago.
You're not that old.
I'm 28.
Yeah, you're 28. Okay, so.
But they're 16.
Oh, I'm thinking they're seniors. It's 18, 20. They're around your age. They're around your age.
No, I get what you mean. Because, when you get to be my age,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's no difference between 16 and 28.
I'm 27, and if I was teaching high schoolers, I would be big bro kind of thing, not what? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what school was this?
Emerson Prep.
Emerson Prep.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
It was on Connecticut Avenue. It actually closed last year. I don't know, maybe funding or whatever have you, but it closed. But it was a great school.
Was it art centric? I'm sorry, I'm stealing your.
It's okay. No, it wasn't. It was a regular private school. Yeah, and then they had a few electives that they could choose from.
So you were teaching. You had left the property management, and you were teaching. And you were painting and showing around that time?
More so group shows. Yeah. I didn't have it all figured out yet. I never had a body of work that I felt comfortable showing. I would paint how I felt. I would paint one thing, and then I'll paint another thing, or I'll paint to sell, and that was awful. I paint a freaking Looney Tunes cartoon, I went through that phase, I painted at sneaker, very hip-hop, events.
Yeah, live painting or something?
Yeah, and it would just be, I'll hang up stuff on the wall and stuff. I went through all those phases and stuff, so, and then I took the last, 2 years, I kind of studied people's art careers. I studied kind of how people who went different paths, you know, and I knew that the next step was to create a body of work to show. I feel like I've been in so many group shows at that point that I was like, okay, it's time. So like during the last 2 years, I had the series with my son first, which wasn't even supposed to be a series. It's just we were stuck at home, and like I just kept painting him because he loved it so much. And then at the top of this year, I was like, okay, it's time, like to sit and think about like a series. And like, I got a show. So like I held on to my work. Like I didn't really do many group shows. I created all of this, filled this big space. You know, it was a lot of work. So yeah.
So that's just open. I have like so many more questions now just from that. So your time at University of Maryland, College Park, was it College Park? Mm-hmm. Okay, so your time there. So when you switched from graphic design to painting, did you still go through like critiques and like that? Like what was that? How rigorous was that?
It was not what it was supposed to be. I felt so overlooked. Like I took painting 2, right? And then my senior year, they were like, oh, you didn't take painting 1. So you got to take painting 1. And so like in painting 1, they tell me like go in the corner and go paint, you know what I mean? Like just do what you do kind of thing. So it was that. I had an interesting experience. I worked at the Driscoll Center. So I didn't realize what I was in at the time. And I wish I took more advantage of it though, because like I like created a flyer once for like a Carrie James Marshall show, and like I just didn't. Wow. I wasn't hip to these artists, and like I was in it.
It wasn't even registering with you.
It not, which is crazy.
Okay.
Like I looked up my emails like later on in life. I mean, maybe last year, and I have this like long list of like very, very, very great artists in their emails, and I'm not their emails, their addresses and stuff. I'm like, wow. Like now I know who all of them are, and like I follow their work and. Crazy how life works, right? Yeah. So
that's David Driscoll. Okay, so then you're saying you're showing all these group shows, and so now, I love group shows. I'm a curator, so like that's like one of the fun things I do. But I guess it's very interesting for me to listen to you because from the artist side, what is it? How are you feeling being in all of these group shows? Like what is your experience doing that sort of, because it's different, it's much different than having to sit down, think about this whole body of work. Like what has that experience been like, and has it taken you other places like outside of the DMV or like
yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, like one of the pieces that I created for this, that kind of started the series that I didn't even know it was going to be a series yet, I showed in New York. I had a great time, showing in group shows. Like that's how I got to know other artists and like know about their work. It just kind of, I did like some over quarantine, like online, like art fairs and things like that. So like through galleries, and like I got to, meet new gallerists. So that was cool. I think definitely next year, like I would take some of this, the body of this work and like show it in some group shows, and I feel like this work needs to be seen more than, just here. I would love to take some to like LA or New York. So, and I look forward to being back in group shows next year, because this year I was just like, I can't do it, and I can't focus on what I need to do, because like I gotta hold on to this work, and like what if it sells in the group show, and then like I have to start over, and like I gotta keep cranking out the work, you know what I mean? So I put a pause on it, and I'm looking forward to picking it up in January.
Well, so especially with all the materials that you're using in this show, what has that process been like for you? So you're, in order to create this work, you have to source all of these report cards and these like different notes from your teachers and stuff like that. What has that process been like for you?
I just had to go to my mama's basement. That's all, and open the container. I mean, it's like a whole container of like me and my sister's stuff, and I just had to pick through what I wanted. I knew I wanted to start from the beginning of my story, and I wanted to start from my childhood. And I'm like, everybody's painting little black kids. I'm like, I really want to tell my story, and I want to take it up a notch. So I'm like, what can I do to really bring something more to what I'm doing? And one day I was just looking through it and I chose, like, I mean, we had tons of report cards and certificates, as you guys can see, but yeah, she kept it all. It's more I can even choose from right now. Like, it's crazy.
That's amazing. And that's actually like bringing me to more questions just specifically about the show. So how are you, like this show is extremely personal. You put a lot of your, I mean, I was reading some of the notes over there and it's like such and such needs to like pay more attention in math class and stuff like that. Like,
that's my sister's comments. That's not my
okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you got like all the A's. You got like straight A's. Okay, that was my, so like how, you know, you're putting this work that's like super personal out there for you, and like, and I know like this piece you said isn't for sale because you're like, it's like really personal. How has that, like internally, how has that process been for you, like specifically revisiting these childhood memories of going to school and things like that?
So part of the remember thing is like people, if you read the statement, it said loss of memory. So like I don't remember much of my childhood. And like one of my sisters, she's a year older than me, so she'd be like, remember this? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, if she remembers, like I should remember. I mean, we're just 12 months apart, right? So a lot of it was me figuring out these memories for the first time, me asking my mom questions, asking my sisters questions, having to dig into trauma and dig into like different things, you know, in my childhood. So these are my first time, I guess, revisiting these things, but maybe visiting for the first time. It feels like so it's been interesting. So like going and reading my teacher's comment about who I was as a kid, because like I hear the stories from my family, but then I read the stories, you know, from the teachers, and those are conflicting too, right? So so I don't know, it was such a healing process for me too. Yeah, it was like just because I had to learn more about myself as a child. Like I have one note in the middle of the Mama Doesn't Do Red Lines, and it's like, Miss Johnson, I called you, like I need to talk about Lex's grades. And so I had to dive into like why that year, it was the 1 year I had bad grades, you know what I mean? I'm like, all these, you know, A's and stuff, and it's like, why did that 1 year, you know, what happened that year? And you know, children are like that. It's like, it comes right out in school in your grades, like if something's wrong at home or, you know, or you bullied at school or whatever have you, you know. So I had to dive into that. So it was a task, but
yeah, no, that sounds deep.
But I'm happy that I did it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So okay, so in this same vein, when you think about your childhood, what comes to your mind? Like the things that you do remember, what do you think about when you think about your childhood?
I mean, my sisters, because it was me, my sisters, and my mom in the house, so it was like, they were a part of it so much. And
now you're the youngest. You look like the youngest in the image. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm the youngest on my mom's side, so I have a younger sister on my dad's side, but in the household, it was like us three. Doing things, taking these, I guess, comes back now, and now I guess it feels so fresh, and like these are my memories, you know, but going to the beach with my sisters, you know, like things that are in here, very much so, yeah.
And so now you all lived in Glenarden, and if I remember from the statement correctly, the building that you all lived in is no longer there?
The complex, Glenarden Apartments.
Okay. So, and in your statement you talk a lot about the effects that gentrification have had on your community. Can you talk a little bit more about what that, sort of like revisiting that thought? And I'm asking that because even as over the years, as I've, you know, if I'm like driving in the car or something and I'm driving by a spot that like I know used to be something, and now it's, I don't know, you know, some sort of apartment complex with, you know, a new one or whatever. Yeah, like, well, yeah, that is like what it always is. What effects have you seen from gentrification?
I mean, I guess that's a part of this show too, in a sense that like we need to remember what was here. Like it was my school. There was a school here with a bunch of kids who like really like kind of went through it, but we had a grand time at school. You know what I mean? Or like there was a complex here that like a lot of people here, you know, was here, and like it's like all gone now. So it's like, do you guys remember? You know, you need to remember. And so I would say it's tough sometimes, like you said, going by and not seeing it there anymore. But like there's also some benefits to it as well. Like, so for instance, my neighborhood was just awful. Like, it just, crime was like terrible. So it's like, it's good that it was gone, you know, I mean, that they chose to clear it up. But it just sucks that you don't know where people had to go after that. You know what I mean? So like, they didn't send them to a better place. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people had to figure it out on their own. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
I think you did. I mean, it's a, and that's the thing, I agree with you. And I think especially being in the arts community, you know, I've grappled with this a lot because a lot of places that I've worked have, or done shows or whatever, are in gentrified neighborhoods. And a lot of artists move into gentrified neighborhoods. And so like there's always that balance of like, or in my mind of just like, okay, you know, I know that this place used to be occupied by someone, most likely people that either look like me or can identify with some part of my experience in this country. But it's also like, well, I'm still benefiting from it because now I can go do work here, or I can go, you know, do whatever. So like, it's definitely, it's something to definitely grapple with. But that kind of brings me to another question, which is being an artist in the DC art scene. So, you know what I mean? So I'm up in Baltimore. I've been there for like 3 years. I was in DC for a few years. And I always felt like, you guys in some chairs.
It's chairs. I don't know if people can hear me. I'm placing up. It's chairs in there. Sorry, if you guys need chairs, but I don't know if people can. What if people can't hear me on the thing, or like I'm facing this way? Shit. I mean, I was doing live. I was like a comment.
I mean, I got it. It's archived.
Okay.
It's archived. Yeah. So especially talking about gentrification. So I know that over the years, a lot of galleries in DC have been priced out because of the rising cost of living and et cetera, so they can't, you know, so they haven't been able to sustain. So what has it been like in sort of this new DC art scene for you over the last few years?
I would say the last year, I'm starting to see a change in, like, I think I'm a part of the big change. Like, Arena Social is a part of that big change that I'm seeing. Like, developers allowing curators or artists to use the retail space for gallery space, and like, you know, it's not being used, you know, so allowing us to come in, and even if it's like not for their, I mean, if it's for their gain in some sense. But prior to that, it wasn't, I guess I didn't frequent other people's shows or know about other artists myself, even though I'm like in the art field. Like, I knew about artists in New York and I knew about artists in LA, and like I would go to their shows, but I didn't so much know about people here, or like I didn't meet them. So within the last, I guess, prior to COVID, I would start going to shows and meeting people and start networking that way. But still, I haven't felt like community, you know, or like everyone, let's go to each other's shows, and like how it is in New York and LA, or maybe even Baltimore.
Yeah, it's definitely like that in Baltimore.
Is it? Yeah. So I haven't found that.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I still to this day don't know that many, you know, Black women artists in the area. You know what I mean? Like, I can probably count them on my hand, like fine artists at least. Like, so, which is tough. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to find your way in this career. You know what I mean? It's hard to get people's attention. You know, some of the best artists, they got 50 followers, 100 followers on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, so. Sometimes it's about who you know. It's not about your talent, you know. Fortunately, I started meeting people, and I have talent. So,
right.
So I'm finding my way, and I'm still finding my way, you know. So, we gotta find a way to get the artists out and showing, you know, somehow. So.
Do you feel like, because you just did the Umbrella Arts Fair, do you think that things like that are ways to build community, or does it need to be deeper than that? Deeper than that, because like, even, I mean, I seen the artists that I knew when I went to the fair, but I didn't meet any other other artists who I didn't know. You know what I mean? So it was like, everybody come hang your work, do your booth, and that, you know, and people came as they went. Like, we need to talk. What's going on? Where your prices at? You know, like how these galleries treating you. You know what I mean? So like,
help each other out. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't see it yet. I mean, maybe it might be out there, but I haven't been exposed.
How do you
to it.
do you have any idea on how to get there?
I'm not the one to start something.
No, I'm not even. I'm not asking you to start anything. I'm like for a friend of mine.
Unfortunately.
No, so like a friend of mine, he asked me yesterday about like my thoughts on like a curatorial pipeline to get more Black curators to just do, be out here and just do, the great things that we do. And so like something I was thinking of on the spot was like, well, I think of like residency programs, but like more so investing in curators that are also like cultural curators. So, and I was using the example of myself saying like, when I plop down in any city, if it's for a week or whatever, like I'm out trying to make connections and just like having fun, and then normally things happen. And so that was like my response to like what I think could work. Do I have the money, the infrastructure, or anything, or even the time to start something like that? Not at the moment.
But the thing is, people do have all of that. They have the time, the money, and the, whatever. But like,
Who
it's
does?
like people.
Okay, so them in the ethos somewhere.
But it's not the artist. So it's like somebody else got to care enough to help the artist. You know what I mean? So I mean, Arena Social.
Yeah.
That's like, I got this space. You know what I mean? Like, who gets this space? You know what I'm saying?
This is a beautiful space.
Yeah. So it takes other people caring other than the artist. Yeah.
Now, have you seen that in the city?
I mean, here.
Arena Social.
I'm not going to name certain places, but like, yes and no.
Well, if it's positive, you can name them.
Yeah.
If it's not, then.
I mean, like, like group shows and stuff, but like more than pop-ups. Give people time to come see the art.
Do some programming.
Do some programming. You know what I mean? Do artist talk and things like that, and that's like how people take you more serious in the art world. You know what I mean? Like, we go and we hang up a group show for a weekend and then go home, and it's like so many people are exposed to your work. So it's about maybe people opening galleries, like who, collecting art. Like, it's more than the artist. Like, all we can do is really create. I mean, some of us have like other skills, but like what we're really good at, is creating.
So when you're saying to, I guess I have another question about just that, about programming. So how, you said that's how people are like taking you more serious when you're doing sort of programming and stuff like that. Why are you looking at me?
Because, I mean, I said that. I feel that.
No, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask
that.
your personal yearning, your personal comfortability with programming, because I run a program in Baltimore, and sometimes we do solo shows and stuff like that, and so there are times where I'm going to have to start putting it in the contracts, be like, okay, you have to do a program. And the reason that I say that is, one, for nonprofits, that's one of the ways that we kind of quantify what we're doing. But some of the artists, they're like, if I didn't force them to do, not force, I can't force them to do anything, but if I didn't say, hey, we're doing a program, they'd be like, no, I don't really want to. Like, if I left it up to them, a lot of them like, no, like, I don't want to do that. But you just said that it helps people take you more seriously.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of artists are introverts. Like, I'm an introvert sometimes, but like, I'm learning to talk about my work. And like, I went to like a Kennedy Yanko artist talk one time, and the way she articulated herself, and like, she like really blew my mind. And I'm just like, she knows her art history. She knows, like, I take her more serious now. You know what I mean? Like, do you know your stuff? Like, are you engaging with the people who are interested in your work? Like, people who are in the gallery, like on weekends and stuff, they're like always saying that people, when they come in here, they're like, are you the artist? Like, where's the artist? Like, we want to talk to the artist. So like, talk to them, you know what I mean? Like, tell them, they have questions. This is my community here. So like, I have no problem, doing artist talking about my work, because like, I want you to better understand it. I don't want to over explain it. It's hard for me to talk one-on-one with people, but like, having the conversation, like a natural conversation about my work, I think is important, you know what I mean? Because like, I don't over explain it, because I want people to still have their personal connections and like how they feel about it. But some questions like are worth answering, so.
Okay. I kind of want to take it back a little bit and talk about your upbringing. So your mom was a photographer at the Landover Mall. Now, so having your mom do that, so I mean, it exposed you to art from a young age. Would you say or no?
I would say no, because it was a short stint of time, and I guess I didn't even look at it like that, because even when it was a short stint of time, but like even when she wasn't doing that, she always had like a disposable camera. You know what I mean? Like, it's always taking pictures of us. So I just thought she was a mom taking pictures of us. I didn't think of it as art by far.
So then, all right. So then, how did you get from not thinking about what your mother was doing as art, and then getting to University of Maryland and having a studio practice major? How'd you get there?
I mean, you know how some kids just draw all the time, or like are just like, oh, she's kind of good at it. You know what I mean? So it was that, and then I think it was that through high school. It was like, this is something I'm actually good at, and I enjoy doing. I didn't do it much like outside of school. Like, I took like 4 art classes in high school, like my senior year. Like, it was just something I enjoyed doing. Like, it wasn't, no one in my family was drawing. I wasn't exposed to it at all. So
you weren't exposed to what people would consider like fine art, is what you're...
Not in... Probably some trips to like the galleries, the Smithsonian and stuff, and maybe middle school, maybe high school, but not thinking that like this is something I could do or should do, you know, or can do, like could do.
All right, so wait a minute, I'm confused.
I know I was supposed to, but I just didn't think I could maybe at that time. Like, I didn't see people like me do it, you know what I mean? It was like old white men, you know, I'm sorry, but like in the pictures, you know what I mean? And all the pictures, and all the paintings, sorry.
So, okay.
But like in all the paintings. So it wasn't something, it was like, wow, I could probably do this, but I couldn't do, it wouldn't be up in that museum, you know what I mean?
Okay, so then how did your mentality get to a point when you were in school to say, and not only in school, so one, in school to change your concentration to painting, and then once you were out of school to say, okay, I want to do this. How did, like, what was that mental switch?
Okay, so we start from college. When I switched country.
I just want to know the mentality.
Right. So I genuinely didn't enjoy graphic design. Like, it was just too particular for me. I took a painting class and I just enjoyed the feeling of it. Like, it was a 3-hour studio class, and it's just like, loved it. I fell in love with this. I didn't know that I could do this yet. I didn't know that when I was an art teacher at first, like when I was first art, not recently, but I didn't know that when I was a property manager. Like, I knew that I could, my friends liked my art, or they would pay for like my art, or like I would sell, you know, like little stuff here and there to my friends or whatever. And then I guess once I started being exposed to artists, black artists who, like, I'm like, wow, she did that in that gallery, or like that was a black person who was able to do that. Then that's when I was like, oh, I could do that. You know what I mean? So it was after college. It was a few years out of college, but I was still painting during that time. I just didn't know that this was attainable until I seen that they could do it. And like, I'm a firm believer that anybody, whatever they could do, I could do.
Right.
I'm like that person.
Okay.
Like, so, yeah. No, for real. I'm definitely that person.
Okay, no, I feel you. I'm the same.
So I was
way.
like, it's attainable, you know. I could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like that. I could think of some more questions, but does anyone here have any questions thus far?
I have one question. Right? I'm sorry. I'm late. I'm sorry. But
Okay.
you might have already said it, right? So I got introduced to your work at the Umbrella event the weekend. And everybody who I showed your pictures to said, like, they just look familiar. They just feel familiar, you know, like real nostalgia and things like that. So are these like family members, or are these like people you just came up with?
These are all self-portraits of me as a child, actually. And then my sister, one's my sister. So, and then these are me and my 2 sisters. So all of them are self-portraits.
And is that your son with the Spider-Man mask, or?
On my like profile, like, what do you mean? Not in here, but like over here. Oh, not over here. Oh, Umbrella, for Umbrella, yes. at Umbrella. Yes, my son. So last year I painted him like all last year, but it's either I really paint me and those around me for the most part. Mm-hmm.
That joint was really, really dope.
Thank
and
you.
Like, it really looks like every little boy I know.
Oh.
You know, and like those little, me and her were talking about like those generators. Like we don't know what those generators are.
The little green boxes.
But everybody sat on one of those
Right.
like, growing up, right? And like, right? You know, so like that was dope. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Oh.
So what is that like, being, I guess, and it could just be just like normal parenting, but like how has your parenting affected, anything about like how you look at the work that you're creating, or like, kind of, because, it looks like in some of these you are your son's age. Mm-hmm. It's like, how has that influenced you at all?
Like as in, has parenting like influenced like my art, or
that vice versa? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. So once I started painting him, which he thinks is like totally normal, also like every picture of a little boy is like a painting has to be of him, or like a little boy is like of him. Like it's ridiculous. But once I started painting him, I kind of seen the response that he was getting to it. Like we were quarantined in the house, and like I would paint him as Buzz Lightyear in space. You know what I mean? So like we got to get out of the house, and like, or he's like, "Mommy, I'm gonna put on my Black Panther suit. Like paint me in this." You know what I mean? Like he sees himself up on a wall. He sees himself as like art. He sees like himself like represented, like beautiful. Like, he could be whoever he wants to be. And like literally he's Spider-Man one day, he's Woody the next day or whatever. And like I see that when kids come in here too. Like I'll be like creeping on the side like sometimes, and I'm in the gallery and like they think it's them. You know what I mean? They think, like literally think it's them in the paintings, which is like crazy. So yeah. I love it so much. Yeah, it does affect so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it affect the way, parenting and just having a mind to think long term, does that affect what you do outside of the painting? Meaning, like, is your practice and what you are, not only what you're creating, but what you are gaining from it, whether that's monetarily or network wise or whatever, does that influence what you plan on doing in the future? Is that a clear question? I'm just like thinking.
No.
I'll give you an example. So, when I started working in Baltimore, my predecessor who had my job before me, I just started talking to him just about like the life moves that he was making and stuff like that. And he was like, he owns like, let's say like 3 or 4 properties. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I already had in my mind, like, okay, I want to, have some real estate just because of, I know the impact of having space. But I was like, that also sounds like it could make an art practice sustainable. Mm-hmm. So let's say one day I want to open up a gallery and I need some seed money. I might be able to sell a house, refinance a house, use this, use that. Mm-hmm. And so like, the way that my mentality is as I'm moving through, when I'm doing anything, is like, okay, let me try and grab this asset so that it can benefit me in the future. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm asking you is that something that you think about, when you're moving through here, or are you just kind of like, you're just like creating right now, you're not?
I always think about my future. Like I have a son, so I always got to think about his future.
Right, yeah.
So like I have that as a skill that I think maybe some artists don't have, because it's like we just want to create and not think about anything. But I'm more so like I gotta make sure things are straight because I got a kid, you know what I mean? Or like I know the value of my work one day, so I always keep a piece too, you know what I mean? Like so I believe in myself, like for reasons, right? So I try not to let other factors affect how I paint, what I paint. Well, I don't let other factors anymore. And so for this series was the first time I didn't do that. Like I used to have to paint to sell, and like fortunately this is the first series that I got the freedom and I got the resources and I got the space to create a body of work without thinking like these have to sell because I got to pay my bills. You know what I mean? So that's what more so prior to 2021, 2020. It was, and like that is so surface level for an artist, and like you gotta go deeper and like not let certain things like certain things affect you, but you also got to make sure you're good, you know. So it's like, is this a battle?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a battle.
But yeah, no, I mean, I really just want to create, which is kind of crazy to, I guess, maybe most people to think, but
I think most people here would understand that for sure. I would hope.
yeah.
And yeah.
I want to ask 3 questions. You can choose to answer all 3, none, whatever you sequence.
Oh,
But you started on it. You started on this thing. I'd be curious to know where you see yourself in the arc of your career.
mm-hmm.
That's number 1. Number 2, artists whose careers you have become familiar with, that you admire for their art. Not, I'm going to set aside content and so forth and so on, but how they got from drawing all the time as a kid to where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, you're clearly a painter. Do you envisage a broader palette? And I don't mean that in the literal sense, I meant in the sense of, could you envisage doing installations? You know, it's one thing to have a gallery space to hang a picture on the wall. It's another to say, I'm going to create an environment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have aspirations in that regard, or you know, I'm just curious.
Okay, I'm gonna start from 3 and then
Okay.
go ahead. So installations, absolutely. I had. Oh, you gotta go through this.
Yeah.
Oh, so like in the smaller gallery. So this isn't. This exhibition is in 2 galleries. In the smaller gallery, there's a small installation on the floor which is a part of the series. And I.
Is this one downtown?
Mm-hmm, in Northwest, and it's essentially 9 child-like figures sitting with uniforms, and they're sitting in a circle, and it's called Telephone. And like it's a telephone in the middle with the cord and stuff, and it's like inspired by the game that you know, used to whisper in the person next to your ear, and then by the end of the you know, circle, well, the end of the line or whatever have you, the story's different, right? So it's like over time things get misconstrued or things change, you know, and by the end it's like a whole new message. And so that was a part of the Remember series, about like, you know, like let's remember like the original thing here, like let's remember who was here. And it's right by the Thaddeus Stevens School, which was the first you know, black school for black kids after, you know, the emancipation of slavery. So I just really wanted to bring their presence into the space, and I think my work is so much like portrait and face that it's like, it's me, you know what I mean? And I think that, but everyone sees themselves in it too, but like I'm like, it's me, you know? And I wanted it to be just the presence of other people, or like other people being able to see themselves in the work. And I think that's harder to do in portrait. So I would definitely continue to explore installations. As far as artists who like I seen who started kind of like self-taught, I would say Jamie Holmes is a friend, art friend of mine who's very, he's self-taught, and he paints self-portraits. So he's a black man, and he tells his story, and our story is very similar. And like I just love the path that he's gone on. He stays very true to himself. What was the first question?
Well, where do you see yourself in your arc of your career?
We're talking 5 years, 10 years.
Well, you know, you've got your solo show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was clearly a milestone thing. That's one thing you said. The other thing you said was this is the first time you had a chance to paint what you wanted to paint, as opposed to paint things which you knew were commercially viable and would sell.
Mm-hmm.
So that's clearly another milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what other sort of milestones you have out there. And the reason why I asked about the artist, because, you know, we're at I think we're at an interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for me to say because I'm the old white guy. But, I mean, there is a lot of well, think about Sam Gilliam.
Mm-hmm.
Here's somebody who was completely under the radar for so many years, and suddenly, like, he's close to 90, and he's having this huge resurgence in his career, and there's a lot of attention. And that, frankly, I think happened because Rusty Johnson introduced, you know, curator show with David Kordansky out in LA, and it just started this thing happening. And I think that there are many more artists for you to look at to say, I can do that. And in that framework, you know, how would you characterize where you are today versus where you want to be? Is that torture?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say that this year I got to create a body of work that wasn't affected by me having to sell it, and I got like grants, I got like the resources, the time, and the space, and that's really all I want to do, and I just want to do it bigger next year, and then the year after that, do it bigger, and like show with my art friends, and show, you know, like I want to create experiences. I want to, it's not like I want to be exactly where they are, but I want the resources that they have, you know what I mean? So, to be able to execute what I want to execute. Yeah. Ain't a bit.
Yeah, good job.
You get 3 for 3?
I have a question about, are you interested in doing have you done artist residencies? Are you interested in doing residencies?
I'm in one right now.
Really?
So, Arlington Art Center. It's
Okay.
a 2-year residency. They gave me studio space, and you get to show at their galleries. So, I got that starting July, which I was looking for studio space.
Wait, starting July?
It started in July.
Oh, it started in July. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is, if you're comfortable talking about it, how has that experience been thus far?
It's been good. I mean, like, I could not find studio space anywhere. I looked in PG, DC, Virginia, everywhere. And I couldn't find affordable studio space.
Right.
Let me correct that.
Be specific.
There's probably space everywhere, but not dedicated to artists. It's not a lot of space even dedicated to artists. So I was looking for a space, applied to it. Fortunately, I got it. And that's how I had the space to create this work. You know what I mean? Like, I was creating at home. I had a home studio. Obviously, during 2020, actually, what happened was I was granted my first residency January 2020, and then February or March, and when COVID hit, they took it right away from me.
Right.
So I was back at home, and like I needed to be outside of my house in order to create. Like, I was so distracted at home. Like, I'm painting one second, then I'm doing the dishes, and then I'm painting, and then I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So I just needed to be outside of my house, and then so I got this in July, and the work was already in progress, but like I was able to have the work up and see it all as a body of work, and like have the place where I stepped out of home to go to work, but it doesn't feel like work, you know, but to work, you know, in a dedicated space, you know, for my work. So I love residencies. Like, I would continue to do that. I think that's like one of the best ways to get experiences that, you know, artists who go to get MFAs have. And like, we have art critiques, we have like we get to like, you know, be in art environments more so, and I'm gonna continue to apply for residencies for sure.
So you just said it, so like the critique aspect of it is something that is important to you when doing these residencies. What else have you found to be an important factor when you're thinking about whether you want to do this residency, that residency? It could just be like, I just want to do a residency, I don't care.
I mean, no, I care. You know, I want to be in an environment that I'm comfortable in. You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's tough. No, I'm just saying, like, I want to be in an environment that I'm comfortable in, and like it just has to make sense for me.
What does comfortability look like?
People, you know, being welcoming to me being there, not me being just like that one black artist over there. You know what I mean? Like, that we had to take in. You know what I mean? So, you know, just that, and just like a resource. You know, like I'm here for a reason. If it's I can just go rent a studio. You know what I mean? If it's a residency, like, I'm here for the resources, you know, that comes with it. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been talking about access to resources. Now, that is something that is very important, especially for Black artists, because, I mean, statistically, there's no comparison to it getting those resources. I mean, for you, what does that look like for you? Not only getting the resources, but also how do you see the correct the distribution of resources to more Black artists? what do you foresee that creating? Is that a clear question?
No, so like.
Okay. And again, I'm like thinking about all these. So, if and when more artists like yourself, more Black artists, gain access to these resources, what do you foresee happening in our fine arts world?
Okay. Good question. Because like even I don't have enough resources yet to make a change in this fine art world. I mean, we got to go up the chain. You know what I mean? It starts really high up above the artist. You know what I mean? To make the change. But it's regardless very nice to have Black art accessible to our community. So like what this is, you know what I mean? People walking by being able to come and experience it and feel welcomed in the space. So more of that is always a great thing. But like if we really want to make the changes, I think it has to go higher up, like owning our galleries, or like Black artists signing with Black galleries, or like even higher. So yeah.
Has that been so? That's really that. Have you gotten a great response, or I guess how has your response been from people just walking in? Because we were even talking about it earlier, where people still come into art spaces and are kind of like, can I walk around? Like, is it okay to get this close? Or so talk a little bit about the response that you've gotten here in this space, and then maybe contrast that to other spaces.
Yeah, I mean. So most people are pretty comfortable walking in here because, like, I don't know, it just grabs their attention. It's them on the wall, too. So it's like they're comfortable. But, like, overall, it is a gallery. And I think overall galleries haven't been very, like, accessible, but, like, also welcoming to Black people. So, like, they'll walk by and they'll be like, can we come in? You know what I mean? Like, come on in. So
right.
It's been that. But the response is like very similar to what he said. Like everyone sees themselves in the paintings. You know what I mean? Like if I had $1 every time I heard that since the beginning of this show, just like this looks like this reminds me of flipping through my grandmother's photo album. You know what I mean? It's just like people really feel this body of work. So
yeah, that's a great I mean, and because when I came to see the show at the opening, that was like what I said. I was like, this is the first show in a while that I came in and I was really like, I'm having so much fun viewing this work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? That's all I had. But then
how did you decide to use the report cards as fabric?
So I kind of played around with it. I knew that I wanted to incorporate it somehow. So I think I started with this one actually. So I was just kind of figuring it out, and then it turned into like patterns and actual like outfits, and like I was playing with it. Like I was exploring paper for the first time, like collage for the first time, and like mixing mediums. Like I'm very much just oil on canvas, and so I was like learning the medium, and I had a bunch of yellow report cards left, and I was like, this is the color of a bus. This makes so much sense to make it a bus, you know what I mean? And it just relates to it. So it was really me just like playing around with it. I didn't want to put it in the background, like the colors of it were like the colors like we would wear as kids, you know what I mean? So
I think it's a great idea.
thank you. Yes. Hey.
Could you talk about the installation in the back? We were pretty captivated by it.
Yeah.
I was curious what the issue was.
So it's not open right now, so people haven't seen it. But yes, for sure. So the installation in the back was called Bubblegum, and it was, I don't know who can relate to this, but it was a game we used to play, and we all used to have our foot in a circle, and they'd be like, bubblegum in the dish, how many pieces do you wish? And so like another person's out, and then you go around, and like the last person is it, like they're it or whatever. So what I did was, it was a huge circle, and it had a bunch of bronze shoes, children's shoes in circles, in which the bronze shoes was because my mom, she bronzed all of our first pair of shoes that we had, and it's like a thing, I guess, that parents do. I didn't do that. Missed the mark on that one. Not a good parent. But yeah, so that was, and they're all in a circle, and then there's like a reflective paper that, like, if you look over it, you could kind of see yourself in it, and you could see yourself in the shoes. And so I wanted, again, to bring children's presence into the space, but also like make sure that you're going in these circles and you get to play around with this and like be a part of the experience as well. So then there was a graduation stage as well. And a part of the reason that it's not open right now is that like part of me I couldn't put into like actual words and like typing it down. I was playing with the idea that, you know, these are all like when you're younger, and then once you get towards the top, it's like older shoes and like kids sitting down looking at you. It's not actual bodies, but like the way that the shoes are positioned, you know. You can tell that this is I can tell that this is what's happening. So it's kind of like going through this childhood, and then like this is like the
We're gonna wait for that pass. Yeah. Good call.
like kind of step into your, and they're all little girl shoes, so kind of step into your premature womanhood kind of thing, right? Once little girls get older, so it's I always use girl figures in my installations not for some reason, I guess that's just what I can relate to, that's what I've been around. But yeah, like I said, so it was just kind of bringing the presence of kids into the room, making people go back into their childhood when they played that game for whoever played that game, and and beyond. So yeah, no problem.
Is your son in school?
He's in school. Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten back his report cards and things like that?
Pre-K4.
Pre-K?
Pre-K4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but like, it's already like artwork that I like took a picture of and like tossed. So like every time I do it, I feel so bad now. I'm like, my mom kept everything, but like I cannot.
Right.
I can't. I take a picture of it though. I take a picture and save it to the iCloud. And
Well, I was wondering because one of the especially that piece, I kept staring at it and I was rereading what the teacher wrote, and I was thinking about and sort of relating it to that to this image of the school bus. I was thinking about I don't want to call it judgment of the young kids, but essentially, you know, there is a sense of like parent, or I guess teacher, but just authority figures already putting some sort of judgment on kids. I was wondering if you've experienced that as a parent, and like how that has been different, like what your experience has been.
It's interesting because that's like when I was reading the comments, that was very much like in a part of it. Like I was like, oh, these are like these people who got to know me for a year, kind of got to know me, like saying things about me, like what do these strangers, you know, think of me, which was like very interesting, like to really think about, right? So I mean, yeah, I had like my first like parent conference, teacher conference or whatever, and like star student, you know, star student. But like it felt good, you know, just hearing that your kid is like the most polite kid and you know ever, and it just it just feels so good. Yeah.
Like son, like mom, you know.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were an A student. You had A+ all on the side. So.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that was elementary, middle, got a little rough. High school.
Things changed up. Which high school did you go to?
I went to Northwood and Kennedy. I went to school, high school in Montgomery County.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you went to Crossland. I don't know why. But anyway, okay, cool. So, so your high school experience was very different.
I mean, different. Yeah. Oh, you mean compared to when I was in PG?
Well, you were saying that that something was happening.
Oh, I mean, girl drama, and I think I might, you know, people were asking, am I going to do things in like chronological order and stuff? And, like, should I tap into those like high school days, like for a series? And I'm like, it was drama. You know what I mean? Like drama. So, you know, or like touching on like bullying, or like touching on certain things that other people can relate to that's not seen as art. You know what I mean? So like I like to dive into those experiences, like to make them. I mean, bullying's not beautiful, but like, you know, make them art, like your experience, persevering through it, you know what I mean, or whatever have you. So
an empowering sort of experience.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Somebody gonna steal my idea now. Just kidding.
That is okay. All right, cool. That's but well, let me back up so I could wrap up that story. So were you having trouble at one point, and then you went to school in another county, and then like.
Oh no. PG County, it was the people that, you know, I grew up with them for infancy. I mean, like, until middle school. And so we moved because, like, my eldest sister graduated from Flowers, and at that time, that next year, my middle sister was gonna go to Flowers, and my mom was like, no, because it was just not a good school at that moment.
Okay.
So she took us to Montgomery County for high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all moved from
for high school. So and it wasn't any better. Like it was. I mean, it was maybe safer, but like high school's not. I mean, school's not safe right now anyway. You know. But yeah, it just. We were the new girls from PG County with the accent, you know what I mean? And it just did not go well.
Yeah. What was that ratio? Were you guys like some of the only black people there?
No,
like...
it was very diverse.
Okay.
Very diverse.
Because that's Silver Spring, right?
Silver Spring, Yeah, it was very diverse. Yes.
Stylistically, what two artists would you say your work closely reference, if so?
References? I wouldn't say reference, but like, obviously, when you think of like black women artists, they compare me to Jordan Castile because she does portraits, but I do self-portraits. So like, if I say like looking at actual artists' work, I would say Frida Kahlo. Like I look at like her backgrounds, I look at her self-portrait work and how she like captures herself for sure.
Okay, and that leads into the next question. So I see you play with like an abstract, kind of surreal portraiture and abstraction for the clothing. When do you decide to stop? You know what I mean? How far does it, you know, like, okay, you have the face, when does the clothing enter the face or the paper material into the background? Like, what is your process on breaking that down? Like, how do you, okay, I'm going to start with the figure, and then I'm going to drop it down to the clothing, and then the inside is going to be the report card. Like, what is that breakdown?
I think it's different for each piece, but like I just spend a lot of time with my work and not even like work on it. Like I sit there and look at it and I'm like, how should I go about this? It's not like I don't think ahead of everything. Like I'll sit at it and I'm like, how should I do this? Or like certain like brush strokes. I'm like, okay, like it looks really nice, but let me just, you know what I mean? Like make this look like fast or make it look like a different type of something. So I think of like my foundation like of like rule of thirds or like how things contrast, and like I think of like the real basics. I'm like, no, something needs to go up in this corner or something. Like so I use the photos as references, but I also like step back and like can tell like what looks right. I don't want to say what looks good, but like what looks right and feels complete. And once I feel that, then I let it go. Yeah.
Cool.
When you were choosing these photos, it looks like these are all, you said it's your mother taking them. What discussions, like an emotional, and you briefly touched on trauma, what discussions came out of pulling your photos, like having your sisters included? What conversations came about from, like, let's discuss, like, one sister went to school, mom just made this choice, like, it didn't make my life better. What discussions came out of that? How do you feel like that's going to impact your future work? And then your son in a public school system. What do you think about that?
I mean, it was a lot of conversations that had to be had because like I don't remember these like specific moments. So I'm like, how was this first day of school? Like, you know, this picture, everyone kind of, I don't know, loves something about this, but it's like I was really rushing down the stairs, very ready to be back to my mom. So she says, it's my first day of school, you know what I mean? Like, school's probably fun, but like, get me back to my mama, you know what I mean? So, as far as like my son, I would say my school, Prince George's, I don't want to like bash the school system. like he doesn't go to school in PG County. We live in PG County. He doesn't go to school in PG County. So I want him to have just better schooling than I had. And though my mom put in overtime to make sure like our teacher knew like she cared, because that's what it took for teachers to care, you know, sometimes. And though I would do that for my son now if it's needed, like I want him to have, you know, a good schooling. And I did have some good teachers. I had a teacher who came the night of the opening because like she's a lot of the comments on here, you know, and like those teachers like really, but it's like they're so few and in between, you know what I mean? And like even at, you don't know, at even the private schools, you know, it still teaches you in between. So it's like, it's a gamble either way, but it made me want to be more involved, definitely, with his teachers, because like I want to know first of all, like his behavior in class, you know what I mean, but like, or why he's like off that day, or you know what I mean, like, but I also want to know like, who are you, because you're with my son more than me sometimes, you know what I mean, like, so like, who are you, you know, so yeah, I hope I answered that. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Oh, hey.
So what's your thing with red wine?
That is just, I enjoy red wine. I studied in Italy. We can take it there. I studied in Italy. I studied in Rome for 4 months. My
What was that
senior
like?
year.
Gosh,
Amazing.
Yeah.
I got to like take all these art classes and just sketch statues and sketch the Colosseum for 4 months. I mean, fell in love. But also fell in love with red wine. You know what I mean?
Apparently.
Red wine and pasta and Italian food. But yes, I enjoy red wine. Catch red wine at all my events.
So wait, so when you went to Italy, do you feel like that might have been the most helpful, or
Not maybe an exposure wise, and new experiences. And in college we had to take a certain amount of art history classes, so I got to learn about all these places, but I never thought I was about to see them next year. You know what I mean? I like took a leap out there, and I grabbed all my pennies, and I was like, I'm going. You know what I mean? But like, I learned about these places, and like I walked in the Pantheon, and I'm like, first thing, like that was probably the first time it took my breath away. You know what I mean? Like, wow. You know what I mean? So to be able to experience that was definitely like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And I was exposed to like different types of art as well. So it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
All college students should study abroad.
Yeah, I wish I did.
For real. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, if there's no more questions, I really want to thank everybody for coming and enjoying. Hopefully you enjoyed. But yeah, can we get a round of applause for Lex and all this hard work? Yeah.